Good morning, everybody. We are thrilled to be here at the Linden Community Center, one of our first centers of opportunity here in the city of Columbus. And we talked to Deputy Secretary about some of the great partnerships with Ohio Health and with the county and so many others here, and showed her the Linden Early Childhood Center, which used to be a Columbus City School grade school, and we're partnering on an incredible early childhood center and that new playground that's in there. So many great partners, Head Start, Early Learning, and Columbus City Schools. So we're so proud to show her this facility, this great partnership here in the heart of Linden that we're so excited about, but really excited to welcome Deputy Secretary of Education Cindy Marten to Columbus. Is this your first time to Columbus? We're thrilled to have you. Just quick introductions, and I'll turn it over to Secretary Marten. The president of our Franklin County Board of Commissioners, Erica Crawley, is here. Jane Leach, who is our fearless leader of Future Ready Columbus. To your left, Secretary is City Council President Shannon Hardin, and Talisa Dixon, Dr. Talisa Dixon, Superintendent of Columbus City Schools to my right, Dr. David Harrison, President of Columbus State Community College, an incredible partner of ours, and President Pro Tem of Columbus City Council, who chairs Education, Recreation, and Parks. Am I forgetting any other committees? Finance. Oh, that's important. That's important. We're working on our capital budget right now. That's real important, Elizabeth Brown. But we're so thrilled to have you here, and excited to talk about how the rescue plan dollars are making all the incredible programming you saw here this morning and in places throughout our city and our county possible. But welcome to Columbus.
Thank you so much. This is absolutely incredible. I mean, we wouldn't be here if there wasn't something incredible to celebrate. So thank you for recognizing the American Rescue Plan dollars, because you're putting them to exactly the right use that we were hoping to see happen in communities like this. So to be able to come and see it firsthand, I'm bringing greetings from Washington, D.C., from the Biden-Harris administration, from Secretary Miguel Cardona, and to be able to come and see a community continue to invest in what it cares about most. You asked if this was my first time in Columbus. It is my first time in Columbus, not my first time in Ohio. My mother is from Toledo, Ohio, and coincidentally to this wonderful gathering, and I'll be speaking to the administrators this afternoon. It's my mother's 66th high school reunion this weekend in Toledo, so she flew out from San Diego, and she wanted me to bring greetings to all of you, and she loves Columbus too, even though she's a Toledo girl. So being able to walk into a space like this and read about all your fabulous efforts, this is exactly, I want to say, the way the kids talk about it, you understood the assignment. This city understood the assignment. You get it. You understand. And so Secretary Cardona and I are lifelong educators. 1 in 3 of us at the Department of Education were classroom teachers. I spent many years teaching in the classroom. I taught kindergarten. I say, if you taught kindergarten, you can pretty much do anything, right? You know. And before coming to DC to step into this role, which is a great honor for me in my 33rd year in education, I was superintendent in San Diego Unified School District, which is a large urban district where colleagues through the Council of Great City Schools, all the large urbans in the country, have to figure out how do we work together to create really generational outcomes for communities that we care so much about. And it's through smart investments and communities working together. And Secretary Cardona and I are passionate about what it means to deliver on the hope and the promise of education in our country, and what does equity really look like. And your agenda as mayor has been very clear around equity, some of the things that I've read about that you've done here just from a city level, but there are no silos here. From what I can tell, your silos are down, you've braided, you're clear, and we define equity as each and in the education sphere, and I think you take this to your city, but each and every student gets what they need, when they need it, in the way that they need it, and sitting in this room where they need it. And so sometimes even during the pandemic, when some of the brick and mortar buildings had to be closed, you had to redesign where you were going to deliver on education. But we did not walk away from our promise and our commitment to our students to give them what they needed. And, you know, as leaders, elected, appointed leaders, sometimes what a community needs and what a community wants might be in conflict, but when a community comes together the way you have to develop a clear path forward, you're showing you're getting your community through the pandemic, and you're actually painting a picture for the future. So I think when these American Rescue Plan dollars came through, to me this seems like a community that already knew what it cared most about. You're already well on your way on delivering to your community the essential tools and resources and skills and programming that your community needed, and so when the dollars came, you knew exactly what to do with it, and you just put them to immediate good use. So what I've already seen this morning is just, it didn't just happen overnight. This didn't just happen because there was a pandemic and the community decided to start working together to discover what it cared about. You knew what you cared about, you knew what you wanted to invest in, you knew where some of your toughest challenges were, and you've been working on solving them, and now you've taken these dollars and just taken the propeller plane and let the fuel turn it into a jet plane, and you're taking off. So it's incredible to see it. I think what we have is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do something, and you all are doing it. Good job, Columbus.
It's every time we make announcements with Rescue Plan dollars, of course, we acknowledge the President and Vice President, but from here in Central Ohio, our Congresswoman Joyce Beatty and our Senator Sherrod Brown, who all supported and advocated for the Rescue Plan dollars. We acknowledge them because, quite honestly, we wouldn't be able to invest in the children, the families, our community without those resources. And so I want to acknowledge them, even though they're not with us. I know their spirit is, because the resources they fought so hard for are going to work for children and families right now in this community. So I want to acknowledge them. I also want to acknowledge the president of our school board, Jenna Dare, who is here. I know you met her earlier, as well as our director of Recreation and Parks, Bernita Reese. Thanks for letting us use some of the space this morning to welcome such an important guest and dignitary to Columbus. Would you like to hear about, kind of how we're using Rescue Plan dollars from some of the folks that are with us today? I know that a particular focus, and we've talked about this before, I believe no group has been more disproportionately negatively impacted by the pandemic and the fallout from it than our young people. And so that's been a place that I know all of us have really been focused on. But the county, under the leadership of President Crawley, has made an unprecedented investment in child care, because about 40% of the centers that closed at the beginning of the pandemic are not expected to reopen in Columbus. Huge issue. Here and nationally. I think I've seen statistics about 1.8 million women nationally that have left the workforce at the beginning of the pandemic that have not returned. And that's a huge issue for us as a community that's growing with respect to economic development and economic growth. So, President Crawley, you want to talk a little bit about the work you've been doing with the Rescue Plan at the county?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you so much for coming to our city and to our county. We're so happy to have you. One of the things that we were able to do, and we just launched the initiative in March, is Franklin County Rise. And it really is building off of the city's earlier investment in using ARPA dollars to support our child care workforce and really try to stabilize child care. We did have over almost 170 centers here in Franklin County close during the pandemic, and most of the centers said within 3 months they didn't know if they would be able to keep their doors open. And so I know you know well the challenges that our child care centers are facing, as well as our parents and teachers. And so there was a work group that came together during the pandemic and put forward some recommendations. The city, I know others will talk about it, put forward signing bonuses for teachers to retain them, and then made 250 scholarships available using Rescue Plan dollars. So what the county decided to do is build on those incentives. So we made an additional 500 scholarships available for families who hit that that benefits cliff. So if they make between 142% to 300% FPL, they can get up to $10,000 annually to help with child care expenses. So 750 scholarships total just for this year, and another 500 next year. We decided to do a number of incentives for our child care providers who kept their doors open during the pandemic. 6 incentive awards. So whether you started a new PFCC, publicly funded child care agreement, you can get an incentive award. If you maintain that or if you open a new agreement and then maintain that, those are two separate awards. If you open non-traditional hours, so 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and on the weekends, you can get up to $5,000 annually, as well as if you increased your star rating, so went to 3, 4, 5 stars for our quality rating, you can get up to $10,000 annually and $5,000 for our family base. So we're supporting centers and in-home child care providers. And then the third that we really are happy about and proud of, we can't subsidize wages for our educators, and we know that is a problem. We're continuing to work on it. But in the meantime, we have made $500,000 available for rent and utility assistance through ERA dollars. So it's a $23 million investment this year and next year using ARPA funds, building on the city. So almost $27 million of ARPA dollars for just stabilizing childcare.
Those are game changers for the whole community.
We believe it is.
Wow.
We have seen the data already. Providers, parents have talked about how it has made a difference already just in 2.5 months.
Wow, that's fabulous. Very smart, like I said, smart, wise actions with real deliverables. That will be something you can measure and see the outcome and impact on.
Absolutely.
Wow.
One of the things that we've tried to do as a community, we look back at the Great Recession and the recovery out of that, and we were very fortunate as a community to recover faster than many other places around the country, but it wasn't a dynamic and inclusive recovery. And so we had Christy Angel, who is the president and CEO of our YWCA here, to lead a group of business leaders, nonprofit, higher ed, K through 12, to set out a list of recommendations about how we could make sure that our recovery here was more inclusive than previously. And so a lot of the things that the county, the city, our higher ed partners, obviously Columbus City Schools are investing in are all aligned with those recommendations from the Recovery and Resiliency Committee. But I know youth programming, we made, I think, Council President and Pro Tem Brown, I think it's $30 million in the last 2 summers, specifically into youth program. I know that that is a top priority for you and for Council. President Hardin, do you want to share a few comments about some of the investments we've made there?
Sure. And one, again, welcome, Secretary. And I think our biggest attribute that I think that makes Columbus work is our commitment to partnership. And so we don't do anything alone. As you heard the president of the county, when we talk about our investments, we're talking about city and county, working with private sector and public sector folks to make sure that our community, but certainly our young people, are supported. And the pandemic had such adverse effects on our young people, and truthfully, young people of color. And so a lot of our investments this summer and last summer have been making sure that our young people have the resources they need, and the organizations have the resources that they need to keep our young people engaged, activated throughout the summer. We see it not only as an enrichment, but also, truthfully, a community safety opportunity to keep our young people engaged. It's a little off topic, but it's definitely connected. One of the things that we pushed from as a community was the Columbus Promise. The Columbus Promise is a commitment that any graduating senior coming out of Columbus City Schools will be able to go to college for free. And it was a partnership with Columbus State Community College, a partnership with the Columbus City Schools, and a partnership with an agency called I Know I Can, which was our secret sauce because they were already embedded in 33 of our high schools. And so, and like you said, that work started pre-pandemic. Yep. Obviously, during the summer of 2020, other things came to a higher priority, so the pandemic superseded a lot of that work. But I remember getting a call from Dr. Harrison, the CEO or the president of Columbus State Community College, a high-performing community college, something we're very proud of and very lucky to have in Columbus, who said, "Hey, Shannon, are you still interested in this Promise program, this idea of sending our young people to school? Because if you thought it was important before the pandemic, it's that much more important," because they had seen college going, certainly FAFSA applications dropped by nearly a third. And so we got together, got back in a room. I think it was still kind of virtual, but it was still a room. And we put together a program that made that promise to our community. And as you know, with these type of promise programs, there are 160 of them around the country. So the programmatic work is the key,
Yes.
how you create the program. So we wanted to make sure that equity was key to that. So we made sure that not only did we support them in going to Columbus State for free, but that we gave them a $1,000 stipend, because we know that the number one reason that young people fall out of school is not necessarily because of tuition, it's those other things, the car breakdown and the housing. And so we made sure that that was there. We also opened it up to DACA students, because when we say it's for all, we mean it's for all of our residents. And so just in the two folks that you've heard, really what we're talking about is cradle to career. And on council, I can't talk about education without seriously thinking about my colleague, President Pro Tem, and the work that she's done in leading our efforts on education as chair of the committee. Her commitment has been very strong, but this is all collaboration. That's how we make it work. And I think, Mayor, when I talked to the mayor about the promise, the ARP dollars, the rescue dollars, this would not be possible. I think we put $4 million in from the city of ARP dollars, and we challenged our private sector to match the rest, and they raised $4.5 million for a total of $9.5 million to make this promise.
Wow. This is what I meant when I said you already knew what you needed. You just didn't quite have it's like you've already built the jet plane, it was sitting on the runway, and you just couldn't take off because you didn't have the fuel for it. Like, you had it ready, you had it staffed, people were sitting on it, let's go, and then the dollars came and you're off. But it's not easy to build a jet plane. But you had the plane and it was ready to go. You just didn't have the fuel. It's an analogy, but that's what it feels like here, that you were really clear, and then you made that phone call and just let's go.
Well, it's absolutely critical. I don't care how good of a plane you build. If you don't have fuel for it, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yep, that's
right. And that fuel is now making a huge difference in the lives of children and families, and we're grateful to the president and the entire administration for that.
And the other way around is, if we sent you the fuel and you didn't have a plane, you wouldn't go anywhere either. And that's what I see here. I really see that you had so much care and intentionality in your plans, hopes, dreams, and visions for your community, and it's just very beloved, and you knew what you wanted. And so then this happened. You didn't, unfortunately, it shouldn't have taken a pandemic. I really hear what you're saying about the recovery, and you took the lessons from the last recession, that the recovery wasn't equal, it wasn't equitable, and you said, not this time. We're going to change it this time. We're going to do something different. So all those funds you just talked about meant to level that. And so many times during the pandemic, I kept hearing people say, it's a worldwide pandemic, and we're all in this together, and we got to get through this together. And what I saw, community by community, either the community where I served and then coming to visiting many communities now, we were definitely all in the same pandemic, but it's kind of the same storm, but our kids were not in the same boat. And what some were holding on to, especially from the school system, some kids and the disparate impacts and experiences that they had, the community can help address that when you're intentional the way you have been.
President Pro Tem, you would talk a little bit about the city's investments in childcare and summer, and I think the council president's being a little modest with the Columbus Promise. I mean, to get us through, to never give up during the pandemic with everything facing us. And then I'm going to ask Dr. Dixon to talk a little bit about the rescue plan dollars and what the Columbus Promise means to Columbus students as well. But
yeah, I mean, I think, so many of our students, and I know Dr. Dixon can talk about this, they were beaten down by that storm, right? Because they weren't in the same boat. And to give them, what Columbus Promise did in part was give them hope about that future. That's game-changing for our high school students, and the work that the schools in Columbus State have done to really dig in and make that tangible to our students is so important. And I'm really, I love the fact that you are a former kindergarten teacher. You understand how important readiness is for kindergarten, and that it really can't, when I think about education, it's really the key to unlocking the future. So that's education for our youngest kids. The city has been really proud to do the investments that President Crawley talked about. We've been so heartened to see the game-changing investments the county has put in on top of that, because these are future-looking and they are life-changing. We know the data about kindergarten readiness, how important that is to then keeping kids able to pass in Ohio what we call the third grade reading guarantee, which really sets them up for success in high school, allows them to access something like the Columbus Promise program. And we were able to put $500,000 from the city, and I know the county matched that, to collective impact plan that our United Way is running around that third grade reading guarantee. And that's really important because the numbers we saw, the hits kids have taken in passage of that third grade reading guarantee. And Dr. Dixon can speak to what she's seeing in the schools, but really no city in our county is immune to it. Every city, every locality, every district has seen drops, but we know in our districts with higher rates of free and reduced price lunches, we are seeing the largest drops, and we have to catch our kids earlier than we are. And then the last thing I'll say, because you've got so much good stuff more to hear, is just to extend your jet plane metaphor a little more. Because I love a good metaphor, and I love torturing a good metaphor until everyone regrets we ever used it.
Take it all the way to Hawaii.
I think that's such a perfect description of Columbus and that fuel that the federal government was able to pour into the plane we built. And I would love for you to take back to the Secretary and to the President and Vice President our thanks for their continued efforts to make sure we're not taking one really great plane ride, but that flight departs every day. This year, next year, 10 years into the future. These investments we're talking about here, we don't want them to be one-time funding because they are lifelong needs, generational needs. And I see the President's commitment to that every day. He talked about it in his campaign. He has pushed people in Washington to think differently about how we invest in families, the care economy, and the care infrastructure. And I mean, it has the power to change the future, which we all take personally. I have 3 kids, and I really want their future to be in a country like what I know the President sees it can be. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So in Columbus, the mayor and the city do not run the school district. They are headed up by the superintendent and 7 independently elected school board members. So I always say that my job is to be partner-in-chief to the superintendent, and we have with our CARES resources, the rescue plan dollars, but she and the board have made some significant investments with resources to help deal with some of the fallout from the pandemic, and love for her to share a little bit about what the school district is doing.
Yeah, so thank you again for being here, and great to see you again. One of the things we started with is changing the narrative about the summer school.
Yes.
And we were able to rename it Summer Experience. So last summer, we used our dollars to engage almost 8,000 students with hands-on learning. We wanted them to get excited about being in school again. And it was a wonderful experience. And in this summer, we're down to about 6,000 because we have some other opportunities for kids this summer throughout the city. Again, the city is providing, the county provided opportunities for other partners to engage our students. So our students have a plethora of opportunities this summer. So that was one. It was important that students didn't feel they lost anything, that they were excited about learning again. And so that was very important. And also the social emotional learning supports that we were able to provide. So next year we're going to see a guidance counselor in every single school providing additional support, and more social workers and school nurses. That is important that our students have access right in their buildings for these important resources. Columbus City Schools, we focus on whole child supports, right? And that is so important because we saw that we had to change our mindsets about, moving from Bloom's taxonomy, right? and really think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. How do we make sure that our students and their families have what they need so that can accelerate our student opportunities? And that's the power of the partnerships that all of us have been involved in. How can not just the school district think about this alone, but with the city and the county, making sure that our students and their families had supports? Because when you support our families, you know what happens with our kids. We're able to accelerate the experience for our kids. And Columbus City Schools, along with our other partners, we have really, in my estimation and the board, really leveraged our mantra of the power of one. One community coming together and putting the student in the center, the students and our families. And we're just really excited about the amazing results that we know we're going to see our students make because we have made them a priority. So when you think about pre-K to now the Columbus Promise, I mean, we're really taking them, you know, from cradle, right, to the schools, to now to Columbus State. And again, that's the power of one, the power of what a city can do when they come together. So I believe our partnership has even been strengthened. Yeah. Right? And now we can share other resources. And we're talking about how we can leverage our resources to help our students because we know they're the leaders, they're the future. Yes. And their experience that we're able to curate is really going to accelerate the opportunities for them. So we're just thankful. And I agree that we don't want these dollars to stop. We want to be able to continue to leverage the dollars because we know the needs are so great and even greater in urban school districts, and that allowing us to help students, help families, are going to get more students to Columbus State and other places, and we're just really excited about that.
Fabulous. Yep. Just so smart. And reworking what summer school means is something that I've heard lots of districts have done, and it makes a difference because it had this idea of summer school was if you were behind and we had to catch you up. No, we just want to be together. We want to be together and have enriching learning experiences.
And all learners, right?
All learners. It's for everybody.
It's an equitable opportunity for all of our students to learn together, and just really, really exciting.
Well, we know from the science of learning and development, without getting too wonky in educational terms, I know you understand the idea of a whole child approach that is how we recover. That is the way, and President Biden is committed to a whole of government approach. He understands and has tasked us as the leaders at the federal level to be working across government. So we're working with housing and development and economy and climate and all the across government so that the experience in the cities, you're not getting a disparate experience from all of what we're trying to do to support you, but you've all created the pathways where it's a whole of government approach here at the local level, which is really the only way that we can be successful. And we already know, I thank you for recognizing my kindergarten teaching experience, that I taught kindergarten in a school where there was Section 8 housing across the street, and 50% of the kids came from there, and 50% of my kids in my class came from a different part of the city, and so I saw it in my own classroom. But by the end of the year, they were all reading on grade level because I know how to teach, and I had the resources that I needed, and the community was part of it. So that's a sample group of one, but when you can do it in one class, you can do it in every class. So the degree to which we aren't delivering for every child every day in every classroom isn't because we don't know how. We do know how in education, and we say you don't have to close the achievement gap if it never opens. Yeah. And it's not an achievement gap, it's an opportunity gap. If the opportunities are there and they have what they need. I had kids walking into my classroom that had not held a book before. They did not have crayons in the home. They were not, Mom didn't have baby Einstein on their belly while they were pregnant. Like they just walked into kindergarten and said, a book. And I said, yes, let's learn to read. Where half the kids came in and that's okay, those are different experiences. But all children are brilliant, and they need to be given those opportunities. And the way this city has figured out that it's not only up to your superintendent and the teachers in the classroom to get children what they need when they need it and the way that they need it. You need the highly skilled teachers, you need the resources, you need summer programming and a holistic view, and you're not reducing education down into little basic bits. You're creating the holistic school environment, but it's living inside a holistic community. And you could get the community right and have the schools not quite get it right, you fail. You can get the schools getting it right and have the community crumbling around it, it fails. When you do it together, it's jet fuel for a daily flight to Hawaii. Yes, keep going, yes.
Well, nobody represents this kind of cradle-to-career approach better than President Harrison at Columbus State. He serves on the board with me at Future Ready Columbus and has been very involved with our work with Celebrate One around better birth outcomes. Really, this starts with better birth outcomes, high-quality child care, high-quality preschool experience. That's what gets us to kindergarten readiness, and then that launching pad to be President Harrison's students very soon for certificates, associate's degrees, pathways to bachelor's degrees. But President Harrison, can you talk a little bit about what the rescue plan is meaning in this community, what it means for Columbus State, and he and his team really are kind of our go-to in the community around workforce development as well. And there are a few economic development things percolating in Central Ohio that he's going to be running point on, but love to hear your thoughts.
All ties together, right? Thank you, Mayor Ginther and Secretary Marten. Thanks so much for being here today. And please accept our gratitude for the administration's investment in our people. Hopefully you're learning that we're making good on the investments, but for the investments, we wouldn't have these opportunities. So we really, really are grateful. At Columbus State, the first thing that these funds allowed us to do was take care of our people. We knew that we needed to be at full strength to help our community recover. So the ability to not just not lay anybody off, but make sure that we were providing a safe and growth-oriented culture for our folks to innovate in a very difficult time was something that we continue to celebrate and are continuing to try to build on. Our students, many of them lead complicated lives. That was before the pandemic. Most of them work. Many have family responsibilities. And for years, we've been focusing on food, housing, transportation, and child care as student success initiatives. The ARPA funds really allowed us to extend those kinds of supports to our students at a time when they needed it even more. So the ability to be there, to be the source of calm, to be the source of you know, the steady support that they needed when nothing else was happening consistently in their lives, really made a difference. And again, the funding that your administration provided enabled us to do that. We really looked at it as venture capital, as you know, how we can make help unavoidable for students, because keeping them on track for their career goals was something that you know, it was a little bit of a dichotomy, because as folks were struggling personally, there were new and really innovative opportunities in the workplace we wanted to make sure that we had them prepared for. So the ability for us to be that bridge made a huge difference. We learned a lot, and President Hardin mentioned, you know, we'd started the conversation, he started the conversation around the idea of Columbus Promise pre-pandemic. At his urging, our teams started working together on what was possible. And then for certainly understandable reasons, we all took a pause as we were trying to do a reset, but quickly re-engaged. And for the city, the mayor's office, city council, and our private sector partners to come together to fund this for 3 years as what I think is going to be a really robust prototype, is going to help the class of 2022, 2023, and 2024, but it's also going to be a blueprint for how the private sector and the public sector can engage around students. And I think that's what is as sustainable as anything, is that the funding has greased the skids to not let the bureaucracy get in the way, and make it easy for students to access services that in many cases have always been available to them. They just didn't know about it. Right. The fact that we're all telling the same story, if you will, and it's creating some energy among the employer base that is understandable in a way to them that maybe hadn't been before. Dr. Dixon and I were with a group of CEOs last night, and that kind of energy is palpable really throughout the region. So just really grateful for the opportunity. We've been able to, again, take these investments and change the way we do business. So I'm urging our folks to treat our Promise students like Ohio State treats their football players. Yeah. So they've got a person, a case manager that's helping work through the bureaucracy. We're renovating a space that's going to be their space on campus because, I tell our students all the time, walk in like you own the place because you do. And we're really trying to make that visible to them here at a time, frankly, when they find it hard to believe, don't they? We've talked about this. As we've talked to parents, the common attitude is, "What's the catch?" Right. So again, it's your venture capital.
That I think is important is the 6 months check-in now. In the last 6 months, we now see that FAFSA completion is up more than 40% in Columbus City schools, and we know around the state and around the country that it's either holding steady or decreased. More than 800 students have submitted everything necessary to be a Promise student. Typically, Columbus City Schools sends 300 to 350 students to Columbus State. So just in 6 months, we've seen real data that is showing that when you give opportunity, and that's why we're so grateful to the administration, when you give the opportunity, our young people, our families are ready, and they're going to take those opportunities. And so we're very grateful.
I know I'm getting the glance from some anxious staffers in the back, but we can't leave this session without hearing from our community's greatest champion for kindergarten readiness and early childhood education, Jane Leach, who is a teacher, former principal, just education lifer for kids from birth on. And
how we are, right?
She is our CEO of Future Ready Columbus. We want to become a national leader in kindergarten readiness, and Jane and her team have helped develop a strategic plan informed by the community to help get us there. But Jane, could you talk a little bit about
I'll wrap it up,
yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And so I thank you for visiting Central Ohio, and I am picking up the vibe that you understand what a special and unique place our community is. You cannot make this stuff up. Right. When I listened to all the comments today, we did not coordinate our comments, but you can see how seamless our prenatal through adulthood work is. It's highly coordinated. We all have similar passions about doing right by our citizens, no matter those not yet born to those at the other end of the continuum, to the career. So I'm grateful that you have experienced firsthand how special we are, right?
Yes, absolutely.
At Future Ready Columbus, as Mayor Ginther mentioned, we are giving leadership to the development and orchestration of many private and public partnerships that support the execution of this Future Ready by 5 plan. It is groundbreaking, community-wide, holistic, system that's been developed for children not yet born and getting them to the kindergarten door. And we all work incredibly well together. So when you mentioned that, you said, well, wait, I don't seem to see silos here. You don't, because we actively call them out and work to lower them, eradicate them, because we have important work to do. And so just really quickly, very quickly, to wrap us up, we have 30 community leaders who have stepped up with zero arm twisting to give leadership to 39 strategies in this Future Ready by 5 plan. We know that when we invest early in the lives of our young children, we change their life trajectory. Children who enter kindergarten ready are reading to learn in 3rd grade. And when that happens, it propels them toward a future of bright hope. And when that doesn't happen, many, many, many negative impacts are realized. And when I talk with folks this, I say, look out the window. How's it working for you? We need to do something different. 90% of our brains develop before age 5. We have a system in place, Future Ready by 5, and it will become national, Mayor Ginther, to ensure by 2030, 100% of the children in Franklin County will demonstrate kindergarten readiness as evidenced on the kindergarten readiness assessment. The ARPA funds have given us a runway to address the urgent pressing needs while giving us a bit of a moment to catch our breath and work toward longer term, sustainable financial future for the work that we're doing. So I thank you, and I echo the gratitude that's been expressed around this table, city, county, state, federal. That's the power of working as one. So to close us up, we are all in Central Ohio on the same plane. It's fully gassed. Thank you very much. And I say we are not going to Hawaii. We are going around the world. And we're so grateful that you and the Secretary and our President, Vice President, our government gets to be in the cockpit, really, helping us fly forward on behalf of our community. So with a great deal of thanks, we say thank you for coming and listening to the miraculous things that are happening here.
I love how you just really rocked my analogy. This city knows how to do it. No, I'm bearing witness to what's happening here, and this doesn't happen because I came into town. I just came into town and get to admire the beautiful work that you've been doing for quite a long time. I don't know if you can read my notes or you read my mind, but for my closing comments, I was going to say, measure this and report on this. Because there are those who there are people in the world, not at this table, who need to see it to believe it. You all have believed something into being. You've believed in this before it was possible to do it. And what you're doing, you're taking some of your deepest heartfelt wishes and hopes and dreams for your community that you had some progress on. You'd been doing a lot, and you just are going even further. And those who are naysayers or don't believe it's possible or have every excuse or reason in the world why you didn't need the money, you don't have to have the money, you're not using the money, they need to see it to believe it. And those of you that have been able to believe this into being so that when additional dollars came, you could put them to use to continue to further these aspirations that you've now had. Some people that are aspirational, they look at you and they think you're delusional, and you're like, nope, we're not delusional. We are aspirational about what we want for our community. And so measure it and report it, because some people need to see the outcome before they're going to buy into it. Other people outside the city. The city gets it. And so you started that with when you said, well, we've got FAFSAs up by 40%. And so you have some data that we made this investment, and those who need to see returns on investment that are a little more concrete than we've just changed somebody's life and their generational outcomes forever. Sometimes people don't know how to measure that. There are measures along the way. There are metrics along the way that are wide in scale. They are health metrics, they are community metrics, they are job metrics. So tie those all together. You all are doing that, and report on it frequently and often so that these innovations that have come out of place, you said, you took care of the people, you didn't have layoffs, you put safeguards in place for your teams so that they could innovate. Okay, so they did, and the money came and you used it. What came of it? So it gets codified for now and forever, because we never go back. And that's what the Secretary, the President, and Vice President have challenged us all to do, is to reimagine in ways and use this opportunity to forevermore change our futures. So you're doing it. Like I said, you understood the assignment. What an honor to be a part of this and bear witness to it today. And I appreciate that you have a lot of gratitude for us, but our gratitude is whatever gratitude's coming our way, it's triple-fold back to you. You're the kind of force multipliers that we're looking for, that these investments will do exactly what we're intending for the kids I just get to see out there right now. Can I just tell you, I don't know if you did it, like made sure I had kids in my view, but as long as you make sure, because whenever the kids are in view, I always say, hey, guys, the boss is here. And then they think, did Secretary Cardona come? I'm like, no, there, that's who, he'll say that too. That's who we work for. This is what we're doing it for. So thanks for the great backdrop over there.
Anytime things are complicated or confusing, you just look out the window, it can crystallize what this is all about.
We call in education, we call it ride the trike. Get back down on the three-wheel, ride the trike, get on the playground with the kids and get it all straightened back out again, and then go back to that city council meeting because you just rode the trike with the kids, you know what they really need. We get it, you know, and when we make smart actions like that, and I love to see this program grow, and I understand why you're saying it's a national model because we do know what to do. So if we know what to do, we got the money, let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great having you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody, for coming and participating. We appreciate it.
Model.